Welcome back to From Corporate to Cashflow. We're Andrea Cannon and Liz Schwab, two pharmacists navigating the process of building time and financial freedom through real estate investing and lending while working our day jobs. Navigating the journey is difficult, but our podcast guests are experts in showing us how it's done. And today we have Matt Burnett with us. Matt, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so today Liz is off, so we won't have her, but I'm super excited to learn more about your journey. I saw your intake form and so much about Alabama and everything. I'm just so excited to hear about it. So, if you don't mind, would you share a little bit more about your real estate journey and how you got started?
Yeah, of course. So I feel like a lot of my journey was inherited. Honestly, my dad was a general contractor, still is a general contractor. And from the ages of, I don't know, 11 to 18, it was pretty much all that I did within the summer. I would go to work with him during the summer that I was visiting him because my parents were divorced. And then even on like winter breaks at times, I would be doing everything from roofing to tiling bathrooms to crawling in crawl spaces with a Tyvek suit on because I was the tiniest one. So from the top of the roof to the bottom of the crawl space, I was there in the mess and just learning firsthand from him how to sort of fix things, how to work on things. And it's actually kind of startling when you realize how little actually is holding a home together. Sometimes it's like, oh, this thing's just sitting up on some blocks. That's fine. But no, I mean, I started there just as a child, learning a lot about fixing things. And I tell this story a good bit, but I not that long ago looked at my dad as a grown up now and was like, I used to hate you because everybody was going to the pool. Everybody was going on trips, and I was in the crawl space, like cutting a cast iron sewage pipe on, for Christmas break. And he laughed because I told him now. I mean, he saved my family probably hundreds of thousands of dollars because every house we move into, we sort of slow flip it unintentionally, and we're able to invest in the property and kind of help it grow there. So I learned a lot from him. Some good, some bad,
Yeah.
but I feel like it's always sort of been in my bones. And eventually, having left the W 2 world, the corporate world, I think that those lessons started sort of bubbling up and something rekindled within me that was like, wait a second, I could have just been doing this whole time. And if I had started this, when I was 19, 20 years old, it would be a completely different story entirely. But yeah, that's kind of where it all started, was just with childhood and being dragged around from job site to job site.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So my parents did like a lot of home renovations. And my dad was not a contractor, but he's just the handiest person in the world, like that I know. We had a flat pitched roof. They put a pitch on it. Like they redid every room from like my room out. Whenever we moved into this house, it was not very nice. So the whole family moved into my room, and then they redid like my room specifically, and then kept going out from there before the whole house was renovated. But then by that time, after it was already renovated, then they started over again because my dad had a full time job, right? So it's not like he's doing this as fast as you would as like a contractor. So
Right.
it's always interesting to go home. My parents are still in that same house. Like we lived there from when I was 7. They still own the property now, and it's always in a state of some project is ongoing. So I can relate to that because I told my parents I was never going to Home Depot ever again. Like I was never going after I moved out. I was tired of
Yeah.
that place, and then now I'm like, oh gosh, like we're there way too often.
Yeah. They don't even say welcome to Home Depot. They just look at me and say, welcome back.
Yeah.
That's all they
Hey,
say. They just,
were you just here like an hour ago?
yes. The answer is yes. Most days I'm there
Oh my
multiple times a
goodness.
day. I haven't been today yet. So at least there's that. But I did
There
go
you
twice yesterday.
go. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, you said you made the transition out of your W 2. Would you mind sharing a little bit more about the why you made that transition and maybe what you were doing before and how that transition went for you?
Yeah, of course. So I used to be in cybersecurity. I was working in privileged access management. For those of you who don't know what that means, it basically means I would help take people's passwords away from them because they would constantly be losing them, putting them on sticky notes, and doing really borderline illegal things with their passwords in their office that they didn't have any business handling. So I would go and take their passwords from them and hide them in a secret vault. That's pretty much what I did for a living.
Oh my gosh.
And so I had the privilege of working with some really cool companies, some companies that I can't say out loud, but other companies. And it was a neat job, but our company started to grow and grow. And a lot of things that have been happening to several other companies. Private equity swooped in because they were interested in the projects that we were doing and how the business was growing. And there was a team of a few of us. And unfortunately, we were very expensive because what we were doing was extremely niche and specialized. So they saw, oh, trim the fat. Let's go ahead and get rid of this one portion because with three of these guys, we can buy six of these other guys instead and have them doing what they're, just doubling down on some other projects. So in January of 25, the private equity company purchases the company that I was working for. Well, in March of 2025, I go to Squat Up Summit for the first time. And for those of you who don't know, huge creative real estate conference, lots of speakers talking about different things and networking with hundreds of people. But one of the speakers, Cody Sanchez, was talking about private equity scooping up all of these businesses and laying people off. And I had just learned, in January, a couple months before, that that's what they had started to do. So I started to see the writing on the wall. And at that time, I was like, oh man, I've really got to figure something out. I've got to figure out a way to at least produce something, whether it's a long term play because of assets or a short term play and wholesaling or flipping something or trying to figure something out because I was like, man, I'm really worried that I'm going to get laid off. So come June, I get that phone call that I'm being let go. So it was a little bit less of a conscious decision of like, I'm done with this W 2 thing. I'm out of here. I'm going to do my own thing. But at the same time, it was a unique situation in which, having started in January of last year, I was like, okay, I'm going to start acquiring a few things here and there, try to build up a portfolio and just at least get started. So if something happens, I've got rental income. I've got something coming in for a separate business that I can supplement, and we can kind of use some savings and just try to figure stuff out, right?
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, the decision was made for me. However, I think that it set me on a trajectory that I'm meant to be on. I'm a very strong believer, and I have a strong faith. My family, I mean, we just knew that something was happening for a reason, right? And I think that that's an important part of my journey as well. Is that every stepping stone, every part of the path before me was something that was already being provided and prepared in a way that it was the next right thing to do. So I just sort of took that step in faith of like, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea. I'm very new to this. I know how to fix things if something breaks, but other than that, I was just fully jumping in. It was head first, and I haven't looked back since.
That's so cool. And I mean, I know I shared this with you and I've shared this on the podcast previously, but this same sort of thing has happened to me before too. And I'm a pharmacist, and you think, wow, pharmacists probably are safe and secure from their roles and no need to worry about not having a job anymore. But the type of pharmacy that I work in is in the pharmaceutical industry. And so I'm more clinical trials based. And when clinical trials don't pan out, they no longer need the team that's supporting the molecule that is being developed. And so that's happened to me twice now. And it's like overnight where you have your job and everything's going well. And then, one time it was like Thursday night, we would lose access. I got the notification that I had a call on my calendar, at 7 a.m. the next day with people that I shouldn't have a call with, right? Like there's no other reason besides getting let go. And then at 7 a.m. I had that call and I lost access to everything at 11. My last day of employment was the following Friday. And so it's just nice to have that backup plan like already in place, right? So even if you love what you're doing, your job, anything like that, still having a backup plan is a good idea because you never know when that is going to be the case. And then obviously if you don't like your job, it's even better to have a backup plan so you can move out of it really quickly. So, I mean, the transition, it sounds like it's kind of happened over the last, 6, 7 months or so. So tell me a little bit more about like the habits and routines that you have developed specifically to be successful as an entrepreneur compared to what you were doing in cybersecurity before.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's a great question, and I've been thinking about that. It's honestly probably one of my weakest parts, like of myself and my own development, is developing good habits every day. Having a more disciplined routine. I feel like a lot of what I've done, because I went from essentially owning nothing January 1 of 2025 to now over 32 doors in less than a year. I did all of that in 2025. I haven't bought anything this year yet. I feel like everything that I've been doing is so reactive. And
Hmm.
because I've had more of a reactive posture, I haven't really been able to take the time to sit down and say, okay, here's what I need to be doing. Here's what I need to be having my daily schedule, my daily routine, or whatever it is, whether that's, 8 to 8:30 reviewing new leads that come across my plate, and 9 to 9:30 property management, those types of things. So it has been a very tricky part for sure of growing so quickly. I wouldn't say scaling, but I would say growing so quickly. You feel like that really tall kid in elementary school who grew way too fast and his feet are way too big, so he's kind of like always falling somehow. Like that's sort of how I feel like this last calendar year has been for me. Is I'm sort of stumbling through like a really tall, gangly Bambi almost, just trying to figure it out. But it's forced me to reckon with a lot of lessons. Some hard fought, some hard earned, and some uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't trade this for going back to a W two. I think that having the structure of a W two is really great for some people, and I really enjoyed the people that I worked with at the time. But I think that the thing that really helped me realize that I was doing the right thing is being in business for myself in a way that I am sort of the commander and captain of my own destiny. Like I get to point the ship in a direction and try to go that direction myself. And if I have a goal, then the goal is for my company. The goal is for my family. It's for the people around me in the neighborhoods that I'm trying to serve in Birmingham. It's not just for, and this is a little silly to say, but I just felt like I was making a fat rich white guy fatter and richer. Like
Yeah.
that's really what it was. And the meaning and the way that I've been able to sort of develop what I have so far is extremely satisfying, and it's meaningful in a way that I would say that no W two that I've experienced thus far has been.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And it's nice to transition from working on someone else's goals, someone else's company, to your own goals and your own company. And so, with that, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your specific goals for your portfolio in Alabama and what you're hoping to do there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for those who don't know, I specialize in affordable housing, primarily Section 8 here in Birmingham, Alabama. And my goal over the next 5 to 10 years is to provide affordable housing for 50,000 citizens of Alabama. And so that's going to be through efforts through Section 8, through things like co living, even affordable living through mobile home parks, those types of things. There are several different exits and strategies, but right now, I'm really working on Section 8 and affordable housing. It's actually funny. I just got this in the mail today. It's called Redefining Community, and it's a Birmingham initiative to help end homelessness. And so, in order to provide those opportunities for people who are unhoused, they, obviously need shelter. It's one of our primary needs. And so, in order to provide something that they can have, they can own, or they can live in, and finding ways to partner with my city to make that happen um, are all part of my goals in providing affordable living for people.
That's really, oh my goodness, that's incredible. And what a big, exciting goal. So, thank you so much for sharing that. And it's exciting to see how quickly you've started on that process. Wondering your thoughts with everything that's going on. I don't want to maybe make anything political, but just wondering your thoughts on Section 8 as a long-term strategy with kind of the ups and downs of things that have happened recently. You feel good on it long term? Is it a strategy that you're starting with and maybe pivoting away from, or how's that going to work for you?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and it's a question that I've been asked several times. People, I will say, we were actually just talking about this last night in our small group at church. How there's so much fear mongering, and people are just afraid of a lot of things these days. You hear one thing on the news, and then all of a sudden it just sort of blows up, into a really big deal. But I mean, when it comes to the actual strategy, affordable housing, and especially with HUD, housing and urban development as a program, it by necessity has to exist
Mhm.
because there are always going to be people who are down on their luck or don't have a house or have 3 or 4 children, and they're a single mother and they have no way to provide, even if they do have a good job, for all of those children in every aspect, whether that's their childcare or schooling programs or after school extracurriculars, those types of things. I mean, all of my all of my tenants in Section 8, this is not even a joke, are single mothers
Wow.
with three or more children. And so I watch them struggle and I watch them hustle and try to do what's best for their family without a lot of extra support. And it's just something that it's so pervasive. It's an absolute necessity. Now I know that people were worried about funding being cut and those types of things when the government shut down. But just on a practical level, the way that HUD actually allocates their funding is they look at all 50 states
Mhm.
and I believe Puerto Rico. I'm not sure if there's a Section 8 program there. I'm sure that there is. But they look at all of the states and all of the land essentially, and they then budget each state and allocate funding per fiscal year. So
Okay.
2024 actually funded 2025, and 2025 actually funded 2026. And
Mm.
there are minor fluctuations, plus or minus a couple of percentage points on the actual rent that you can get per year. It's all part of this insanely humongous mathematical formula that I don't know how or why they even came up with it, but it just is what it is, right? So there is a lot of fear behind that as far as stability goes. But the truth of the matter is the disparity between middle class, upper class, lower class is just continuing to widen. The gap is getting larger and larger. And whether that's a universal income that eventually is implemented by the government just based on the needs of human beings in our country, or if it's something that is a continuation of a program that we currently have, I just believe that it will have to exist. Period. There are people on waiting lists right now, still to this day. And one of the cities not far from here, Bessemer, on the west side of Birmingham, they just reopened their program for the first time in 5 years to new applicants because they had a wait list of 5 years for people to get access. And this isn't even a big metro, it's Birmingham. There are places that have even longer lists. Some places are like 10, 12, even 15 years, where if you get a voucher and you don't find a home in 90 days, you don't have a voucher anymore. And
Wow.
so there's such a need, not just here in Birmingham, of course, but all over the country
Mhm.
for people who need housing. So I know you can tell I don't really care that much about it by the way that I speak. I know that was probably a little bit more of a rant, but it's extremely important for people to know that there's always going to be a need for these types of people who just simply can't afford to buy their own home.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, the passion is there because the disparity is there, right? And the need is there. And so whether it's not Section 8 going forward or it is, there's going to be something that has to be in place to take care of our fellow human beings. And affordability is going to be a problem going forward for sure. And I think that problem is going to get larger and not smaller. So I think you're on the right side of the equation trying to help solve that in your local area. So I mean, I personally think that that's awesome, and I love the mission. I just feel obligated to ask that question because there's so much uncertainty. But I think that that's where entrepreneurs can really thrive is if you wait until the answer is already there, it's too late. A lot of times, and that an answer will present itself. There will be an affordability need. So and you'll be there to fill that gap when it's decided on, right? If it shifts. So that's
Right.
perfect. So I'd love to hear, in this journey that you've had in even just the past year or so, what has been the biggest lesson that you've learned that you wish you knew sooner?
Oh man, I, the biggest lesson. I feel like every day I learn a lesson. And so it's like 365 micro lessons throughout the entire year. I think there are actually a couple takeaways.
Mhm.
Um, Primarily, the number one thing, and I know people may have heard this before, but it's absolutely true, is you have to have the right mindset.
Mhm.
Your brain has to be on the right page with your body, and you have to really understand that there is a time and a place for you specifically, and you exist in this time and place for a reason. Now, whether that's in real estate or pharmaceuticals or cybersecurity or whatever it is, there is a reason that you are here to provide value to the people around you, to the community around you, and to the world globally, believe it or not. And so I think about the mindset of somebody who is maybe stuck in a struggling W two or stuck in a W two that's good, but it just isn't that fulfilling.
Yeah.
And having to kind of connect yourself with your brain and your body in a way that just allows you to comprehend that you have a purpose, you have a big purpose, and that you weren't created just by mistake. Like you're not an accident, and that there is so much value that you can bring to everyone around you. You just have to believe and trust in that. Even on your worst days, you have to believe and trust going ahead that there is a reason that you're doing the thing that you're doing, whether it's crawling in a crawl space that you don't want to be crawling in, or changing a light bulb for somebody who is an elderly lady and can't reach the light. Like there's something that you're able to contribute, and understanding your place in that is massive. So I think the mindset has been a big shift for me, over the past year for sure. And then another big lesson is reading the words, the thoughts, the books of the people who have gone before, the
Mm,
people who have already done what you're trying to do. I read books by, Brandon Turner, obviously Robert Kiyosaki, who everybody talks about with Rich Dad Poor Dad. I read Dan Martell a lot, and I think about all of these people who have gone before and have already achieved similar things that I want to achieve. And there's a reason for that. You should be putting yourself in their shadow in such a way that you're able to learn from their lessons. So maybe you don't have to learn that lesson.
yeah.
You don't have to learn that lesson yourself. And there are so many practical pieces of wisdom out there that exist. And even like Dan Martell's one of my favorites. And another lesson that I'll sort of add on to this is, in Buy Back Your Time, he says 80% done by someone else is 100% freaking awesome,
Yeah.
because you didn't have to go do that thing. Even if you think that they don't do it as well as you, odds are they will do it just as good, if not even better than you did. And you didn't have to go do it.
Right.
So that's one of those lessons that I've had to kind of give up control over several smaller things and just be willing to say, okay, well, I can enable somebody else to go and do that thing that they're then paid for, that helps their family and helps those people around them. And while I'm allowing them to do that, I'm able to go back and build my business even more, by spending time doing things that help develop more relationships that I can then feed them more work. And so it's a very cyclical sort of ecosystem that I'm attempting to build here, where I'm able to provide housing and jobs for people who need them, period.
Yeah.
And
So cool.
there have been so many things that have added up to that.
Uh-huh.
And I could talk probably for hours and hours more, but nobody would watch. And it wouldn't be that fascinating. But I think that the reality is, if you put your mind in the right place and you allow yourself to believe that you truly are able to achieve something great because you were made for great things, and then you use people who have already done great things and their information, then you're setting yourself on a path for success. Even though it doesn't feel like it, even though you're going to wake up and have bad days, you're going to have bad weeks or months, the complete, overhaul of those two things will change your trajectory. I fully believe that.
I love that. I mean, I think about, the books that I've read and how much they've changed things for me. Like I first heard about Pace Morby from a targeted ad on Facebook. Because I had kind of run out of my own capital for buying properties. And I was like, man, like, how's everybody else buying these properties? I'm, really confused. And then I'm saying this out loud. I'm asking this question to people. And of course, what does Facebook do? It shows me an ad that says, you can buy houses with no money down. And I was like, that's a scammer. But that was right at the same time Pace Morby was coming out with his book, Wealth Without Cash. And so,
Mm,
I looked him up on Bigger Pockets. There were mixed reviews on him on there at the time. So I was like, well, I'm just going to order that book because it is published by Bigger Pockets. I'm going to see
right.
what he's got to say. And literally immediately after coming home, I read this book while on vacation in Alaska with my family. I came home that following week and started making phone calls and got my first creative finance property under contract about a month later. And
There you go.
yeah, it was like the coolest experience. But that's because these people have written these books for a reason, right? So not only do we need to read them, but we need to execute on those things. And so I love that you highlighted that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would actually say, so that would be like the third lesson, right? So mindset, learning from others, and then taking action based on what you've learned, and that mindset. You push all of those things forward and allow them to propel you in a direction that you've never been before. And there's no way you could have told me, you know, in December of 2024, this is where you're going to be sitting in this chair in 2026.
Yeah.
I'm not flying on a private jet. I'm not buying a Rolls Royce. I'm not doing anything crazy, but it's just such an insane position that I never would have thought I found myself in.
Yeah.
And it's because of those things. And I think that taking action is absolutely necessary, obviously, because if you just sit there and don't, then nothing's going to ever happen. You have to be willing to get some egg on your face and be willing to fail forward and learn from each failure.
Yeah. And that's, oh man, that's such a good point because the action piece, a lot of times I think new people who are new to investing or new to anything, they think that the action is getting on a Zoom or watching a YouTube recording, right? Or listening to a podcast. And those are really good things. But the next step is taking an actual step after you have consumed that content, right? And so that action piece is, I mean, you are 100% spot on. I'm curious, with the fact that you had, no doors about a year ago, right? And to over 20 doors now. How do you are you at the right size? Are you growing appropriately? Are you pausing for a little bit? Are you full steam ahead? I want to hear like how that's gone because that's 0 to 100 real quick, right? Like so I want to hear how that is.
Yeah. So my wife we've talked about this several times. She's like, have you ever thought of just like easing into something? And the answer is like, no, I don't know why. I cannot tell you what goes on up here that makes it so I'm not just like, hey, what if I just bought one house this year?
Yeah.
And then I did that one house. Well, it's like I did that house. And I was like, well, that house is good. The house is in great shape. Like I did good. Let's keep going. Can I get seven more? Okay, yeah, I got seven more. Um, that's really cool. Everything's sort of going and lease those up and everything's moving and rolling. It's like, oh, somebody from California wants to partner on a 20-unit deal here in Birmingham,
Oh, wow.
and I'm the guy in Birmingham right now. So it's like, I mean, yeah, let's explore that. Let's figure it out. And oh, you just met two ladies who live in 6-bedroom houses next door to each other who need to move to a single level home. So let's talk to them. And we did that creatively. And so it's just like I don't know. I honestly like I don't know if it's the universe just feeding me stuff because I'm open and receptive and I do want to help people. And so like that's just happening. Like I'm like I feel like God is blessing me with opportunity after opportunity because he knows what he's made me for. And then there's also the other side of like maybe I'm just trying to do too many things, right?
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I think that right now, based on my previous statement of how reactive I've had to be and how things have come up across all of these properties, right? And that I'm trying to juggle and I'm trying to balance, I'm trying to make it all work. That right now, I wouldn't say I'm on pause, but I wouldn't say that I'm about to buy my next thing either.
Mhm.
I would say that I'm looking for instead of just sort of taking a scattershot approach to let's throw some spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks and see what we can get going, in this particular property or house. Or we'll force a deal to work. I'm looking for the right next deal. So whatever that is, whether it's I'm negotiating a crazy $18 million deal right now, which is a whole different scary and terrifying thing. But it can be and has the potential to be an incredible deal. And
Mhm.
then there are some other smaller portfolios that people keep passing my way. There's some in Montgomery, which would obviously help my goal to Alabama. Um, you know, I, it just I'm trusting and waiting and making sure that it's the right deal at the right time, and that I'm not doing something so crazy that I just set everything on fire along the way.
Yeah, no, I feel that. And I think my husband and your wife might need a support group together for this sort of thing because I'm like, he will listen to this and be like, yeah, that's you also.
Well, and it's like going back to reading the books, right? Like there was a book Brandon Turner wrote. So it's just like the basics of real estate investment, right? And or rental properties. And he's like talking about how he got his first deal, and then a couple of years later he got his second deal. And I was just like, but if I did all of those in one year, then I could get to where he is even faster.
Yeah.
And it's just, which is silly. It's so silly to say. Obviously, he owns like 13,000 things, and so. Um, that isn't a thing that I aspire to one day. But at the same time, I think one of those tough lessons that I've definitely been learning is growing is not scaling.
Hmm.
Growing is like the awkward kid that I mentioned earlier who's tripping over himself because he's having a hard time keeping up with his growth. And what I need to be doing is building in systems, which I am not skilled in at all. I'm a goer, I'm the visionary, I'm the doer, and I have this huge vision, but I need somebody that's like, hey, but this is what the spreadsheet says when we calculate this.
Yeah.
So building systems in place and getting people in the right position and role where I know if I leave the country for a week that everything's going to be running okay when I get back.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of those types of things that I'm going to be getting in place. And goals that I have is adding team members, adding people who can run CRMs and handle leads and help me underwrite and decide what's good and what's bad and what's worth going after, so to speak. So um, it's been a tricky growth period for sure, but now I'm looking from growth to scale is what I would like to do.
I love that. And I love the distinguishing factor because I think a lot of people get those two things confused, but you're absolutely right, especially with like that awkward kid analogy, right? They have definitely grown, but they haven't scaled at that point in time. And so that'll be really exciting. I mean, look at what we've done just with growth. Can you imagine when it's intentional?
Yeah,
When it's the scaling side? I mean, how insane that's going to be. I can't wait to hear more. We'll have to have you back on for an update, of course.
yeah, sure.
Thinking about someone who's maybe just starting their financial independence journey, they're maybe in a W-2 right now and looking to get out, or they're just looking to have something as a backup plan in case private equity comes in or a clinical trial fails or something like that. What piece of advice would you give them in about 30 seconds or less to get started?
I don't know if I can speak in 30 seconds or less. Find what it is that you love and do that,
Mhm.
period. I love helping people. I love feeling like I'm contributing to something bigger than myself, to something that has an impact not just for me and my family, but for our community areas around us. And I think that there is nothing greater. I feel like we were created to love one another, to treat one another well. And when we treat ourselves well, we treat others well. So if you can find what you love and do that, whether it's real estate, whether it's, hustling on Etsy, whether it's creating a new product that you want to be an entrepreneur on, that you've got this great idea, then go for it and fail forward and make mistakes, get messy, just like Miss Frizzle said on Magic School Bus. And I don't know if any of you are going to get this reference, but it's true. When you invest in yourself like that, it's one of the best things you can do for yourself and for the people around you because you become a better version of yourself. So find something that you love to do and chase it.
I love that. Oh, that is some really good advice. And man, thanks for sharing that. I really appreciate that. So one last fun question. So you
Okay.
mentioned, your business not falling apart when you leave the country for a week. And so
Yeah.
I'm thinking about leaving the country for a week or something like that. So me and Liz have a goal to travel, to explore the outdoors, and to have fun while building wealth at the same time, rather than waiting till some sort of end milestone, of retirement or 50 years from now to go and do those things. So, wondering if you have any personal upcoming bucket list travel adventures you're hoping to accomplish in the next couple of years.
Oh gosh. Okay. I love. Well, it's. I feel like there's categories, right? Like
Yeah.
there are things that you go to do. Like we love to go to ski. Like me, my wife, and two kids. It's so much fun being on the slopes with my children. I would go back to Denver. I would go back to ski with them any day that the slopes are open. We also just went. We had a weird year in 2025 where we went to like three theme parks. So we went to Disney right before Thanksgiving. We went to Universal the first week of December, and
Nice.
then we went to Dollywood in Tennessee, which was phenomenal. And it completely surprised me, and it blew me away. But like, it's I think that the destination is just as important as the people that you're with.
Hmm.
So I'm sure that you are well aware of that.
Hmm.
Um, I love to go do fun things with my family. Like we go places to do things, not just like sit, you
Yeah.
know. So one of my favorite places that I would love to go visit in the next couple of years again is Banff, Canada. I feel like God was showing off and bragging a little bit when he was like, "You guys aren't going to believe this," but it is the most beautiful place that I've ever been in the entire world. I also love old world countries. I would love to go to Istanbul eventually. We've been to Italy, we've been to France, we've been to the UK. I'd like to go to Belgium too because I've never been physically been in Germany, and I would love to just go check that out. um, I've kind of like vicariously traveled through some of my best friends. They actually been traveling around the world for like the past 2 years.
Oh, cool.
So they saved up a bunch of money and they've gone to all these countries. So every time they come back home, I'm like, where should we go? Where should we go? So they really love Belgium. So I think that probably Istanbul, Belgium, and we're adopting from India. So we'll be going to India soon. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's so cool. And yeah, being able to go to India for that adoption will be really special. How do you have any idea on the time frame?
So the way that they do it is it's a stage by stage. We're in the matching phase right now, so we're basically waiting for a file for our criteria. And when they send us the file, we'll review it and just sort of kind of pray over that and see, is this the right thing for our family? Is this what we need to be doing? And then we'll, I guess, take that step in faith and just kind of go out and actually physically be there. There are court dates and all these doctors visits and things. But yeah, so right now we're in the matching phase.
Well, congratulations on that journey. That's really
Thanks.
exciting. And it'll be really exciting for your family to expand. I mean, it sounds
Yes.
like, yeah, that'll be nice to have a little brother or sister, something else to add to the
Yeah.
crew, to the ski slopes. I love it.
Yes, absolutely. Although
Um,
we will be outmanned at that point. We'll have
yeah.
two adults and three kids, and that's like you just don't have that many arms anymore. What are we going to do?
Yeah. Zone defense and some ski school, right?
Exactly, exactly. Get one of those cute little kid leashes so they can go like 10 feet in front of us.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And maybe the older ones will be even more skilled by then that they won't even,
Oh,
you know.
absolutely.
So, man, the kids, I learned how to ski as an adult. We moved out west from North Carolina, and I moved out to Utah when I was 27 and had only skied two times in Virginia very briefly before that. And all the little kids just whizzing. I mean, I can do so much now, like double black diamonds, all the things, like not the shoots, but most everything else. And but the little kids are always flying by me, and I'm like, dang, I wish
It's
I.
unbelievable. It's because they're so flexible. They're still partially jelly, like they can bend and they can do all this stuff. And I was just like, this. It took me longer than my oldest daughter to figure it out. And she's only 9, she's about to be 10, but it was just at the time she was 7. And I was just like, why is this so easy for you?
Yeah, what the heck? Oh my gosh.
But yeah, we figured it out. It's really fun. So we're looking forward to going back one day.
That's so cool. That's so cool. So are you looking for people to work with you? And if you are, what does that process look like? How can they help? How can they partner with you? What do you need? Give us the scoop.
Yeah, so to be very frank, to get 50,000 people houses, I need houses, and to buy houses, I need money. So I'm always looking for PMLs. What we essentially we have our process where we buy one house, or if it's in a portfolio, buy the portfolio, get people in it after it's fixed up, and then refinance them out. And it's a very simple process. We have some lenders who do really nice on leverage. They do really well for us, which is great. And so that helps out us. We're able to get paid a little bit on the back end or have at least a little operational cushion there, but always looking for more PMLs. There's, like I said, a deal that, we're going to have to raise probably close to 4 million for if we close that student housing deal in North Alabama. And then, of course, there's another deal we're talking about, probably between 1.5 to 2 million for the total purchase. And obviously, the down payment will be significantly less. But there are, I'm open to first time investors, anybody from 10,000 to 10 million. You can come and invest with me and help me build this affordable housing, um, you know, strong fortress in Alabama. And that would be amazing.
I love that. I love that. And so what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can reach out to me on Instagram if you want. I'm Matt Buys Bham. That's MattBuysBham. And then on Facebook, you can obviously find me, Matt Burnett. Reach out to me any way that you want. But if you want to, invest further or have more discussions, we can meet on Zoom. We'll go from there.
I love that. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Matt. I really appreciate you sharing your story and your journey. It is very inspiring to think of you from a year ago and the transition that you're at today. And I can only imagine what the next year and years beyond that are going to look like. So, really, really appreciate you sharing with us today everything that
Thanks
you
for
learned.
having me. It was great.
Yeah. And thanks everyone for listening to this week's episode of From Corporate to Cashflow. We will catch you next week. Hey, it's Andrea. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. If you liked it, I'd love it if you hit subscribe. Thanks so much.